for this September. Okay, so and for those of you who have questions, I'm going to ask you to put them in the chat box, and then we'll answer questions at the end of Trevor's presentation. So now I have the pleasure to introduce Trevor Edwards. Trevor has been a self-employed horticulturist for 48 years. The first 25 years, he owned and operated his own garden center. He then worked as a garden designer and consultant. In the year 2000, Trevor designed the Tourism Ireland show garden for the Philadelphia Flower Show. And since then, he's been a frequent speaker at the Philadelphia Flower Show. Trevor is a director trustee of several of Northern Ireland's garden and tourism trusts. He holds several distinguished titles. He is a liveryman of the Worshipful Company of Gardeners and a freeman of the City of London. I say, when I hear those titles, I think, don't I just wish that we had such interesting titles in the US? Now, in recent years, Trevor's added garden tour manager to his long list of accomplishments. He's hosted travel programs to visit gardens all over the world. Now, Trevor led the first HPS trip to Ireland in 2018. Since then, he's taken us to the southern France. We've gone to Devon and Cornwall together, and Northern Ireland and Dublin. Sicily and Rome will be our 5th trip together with Trevor. So now please relax and enjoy Trevor's preview of the outstanding gardens, the fantastic scenery, and the historical architecture of Sicily and Rome. I think you are in for a treat. Trevor, take it, please.
No pressure, no pressure. Let's see if we can get a screen share. Start. How are we doing? You got it?
Got it.
Okay, the first thing I will say is hello to everyone. I've just really enjoyed looking at all the faces, many of which I recognize. You might recognize my scarf, and that might not be a bad thing because I do have a sore throat. But anyway, welcome to you all. Just to introduce my colleague, Jenny Duncan is also on screen. Jenny is the Brightwater representative who is working outside office hours by a long, long way. So Jenny, thank you for taking the time to be with us.
No problem. Hi, everyone.
Thanks, Jen. As Dawn said, this is a preview, and really what I've tried to do is give you a taster of everywhere we'll go without doing too much, without showing you too much. Someone in the waiting room wants in. I see it on my screen. So I always have little sayings, and this is one of my favorite ones. The world is a book, and those who don't travel only read one page. I didn't say that for 2 years during COVID, but thank God we're now able to travel again. Dawn did say that this will be my 5th tour and your 5th tour with me and Brightwater, and that's the list of them, dating back to July 18. So without too much further ado, because we have a lot to cover, let's have a look. Sicily, as you know, is the very bottom end, the toe of Italy. And incidentally, that little first slide that I had about the shop window, that actually was taken up in Catasano, if you can see my mouse up in there. So even it had an Italian flavor. So in terms of now, we're going to give you a preview of the 9-day tour and a bit of Rome as well. It won't be in depth. I hope it enthuses you to book and come and enjoy it. This symbol will get explained countless numbers of times when we're in Sicily, but in essence, the 3 toes are each of the peninsulas of the island. The island is roughly triangular, and that is one way of remembering why the symbol is like that. We'll give you a lot more when you get there. When you arrive, you're likely to come into Catania, and then we will come up towards Taormina, and we're staying in Naxos Beach. I have an image of our hotel. This is us. As you can see, we're right beside the sea, which will be rather charming. And that'll be our base for, I think, 4 nights. A couple of shots of that and 1 or 2 interiors. Within view from there will be probably the most famous thing about Sicily, and you can't get away from it. It is Mount Etna. And those of you that are watching your press at the minute will know that it has been particularly active. I have some friends who are there and they say, it's bubbling, but it's not a problem. Not a problem at all. Some days you see it, some days you don't. Even when we go to it, it can be clouded in, it can be covered in cloud, but generally we will get 1 or 2 days. This is taken from a way down south, and this is the only southern view that you can get from this particular road. For some reason or other, there are no other roads that give us this view. To give you a little bit of the topography, this is roughly where we will come up at coach parking, if you can see my mouse, and we will walk around this crater, which I will show you in a second, and forgive the spelling, the typo. I've just seen the typo there still. I'll move so you don't see it. Most of the shots in this presentation are mine, and these two were taken by me while we were up with another group, and that was the snow conditions we found at the top of Etna. Not the top, but at Sylvester. This is the one crater. There is the road that we will be on, and we can actually circumnavigate that crater, and we do, provided the weather is decent. Better shot of it coming up now. You can see people promenading all the way around here. And the views then down to the coast are quite stunning on a good day. This is not a difficult walk. There's no great slope in it at all. It can be a little bit windy and it can be wet. So on that particular day, wear stout shoes and bring a Mac. That's all you need to know. If we're lucky, and the weather is kind, there is another crater that we could actually walk to, which is a little bit more challenging. This is it here, up around this one. Now, it is unlikely that we will have time to go up in the cable car, which is not included anyway. But it's just very time consuming, and you can only get one cable up. After that, you have to go on a 4-track machine, so you will never get to the top of Etna. You'll only see it closer and closer. I've been up in the telecabine a couple of times, and it's fine, but you don't see the crater. Actually, to circumnavigate, if I can go back, to circumnavigate this boy over here is much more interesting. So, moving on. Once we get to Etna, we're very close to this garden, and this is one of my favorite. And if you look, the real title is the Etna Botanic Garden. It says, it is what it is in the tin, says on the tin. The owner's not there. This is the owner's wife. This is the man that cooks, and this is the chef de pâté. The owner comes up now. This is he and his wife. He is titled. I always say at this point, he has the unfortunate attribute of being ridiculously handsome. It is crazy. And he's a prince. And he's a very good artist. But in terms of his gardening, he's also extremely knowledgeable. It's a lovely visit here, and we will have lunch at this point as well. This is around his garden, very, very much different to any other of the gardens that we visit, because we're very much on volcanic ash. Just a few of his views, looking down. This is from his house at the poolside before we get into the garden. A few aloes. It's a very photogenic garden, and he himself is an artist, and throughout the garden there's a lot of not just his art but other people's art. I think that's the final one of his garden. We do include fortuitously some, dare I say, refreshment. And I'm hoping this is the vinery that we will visit. I'm hoping in many ways, in some ways I'm not, because it is the most precarious place to get to in a coach. But believe me, it is so, so worth it. Not just because of the wines, but the views and the whole tasting experience is stunning. These are a couple of my shots taken through the glass just out into their vineyards. One of the most special gardens that we will visit is in Taormina, and it's the Casa Cucini, which is right up in Taormina itself. And we will come up by public coach. You can't get our big coach or any other coach up into the village. It's all got to be done by public transport. So we get there, we have a little bit of a walk through the town to get to the house. Hopefully you've got your notepads with you. I invite you to take a note of this book and strongly suggest you get a copy. It has 2 different publications, so you'll see 2 different covers, but it is A House in Sicily. Strongly recommend you read it before you go. Very, very interesting. And it's all about this house and garden and what happened to it during the war and as people were growing up through that house. Totally recommend it. This is again up in the garden. I think I have a couple of shots of it. Fantastic views. This is not Etna, but Etna is usually in view from that garden. There's Etna now. That's Etna. Excuse me. The garden was developed by the Kitson family, Robert Kitson, and he is a big sort of person within it. Obviously, by the name, he was an Englishman, and his family made steam engines. That's where the family fortune came from, making steam engines, which nearly all went to Argentina, I think. This is again in the garden. You can't stay here. Many famous people have stayed here. That will be revealed when we're there. I invite you to ponder, what could this lovely girl possibly have in this pink box? It will be revealed in the time, but not today. It is very interesting, particularly for ladies interested in fashion. Very, very interesting. I always include this one when I'm at this garden. This is Scilla peruviana, which flowers there ubiquitously. And everybody thinks that it's from Peru. If you don't already know, the derivation of the name Peruviana was the name of the ship that brought it back. It wasn't anything to do with being discovered in Peru, but it was the name of the ship. Still in Casa Cucini. This is down at the entrance gate. And from there, we then walk back down into the village, which in itself is, when you're in the village, it's very small and reasonably easily navigatable, but it is hilly and steppy. So there will be steps. So from there, we'll walk down into the piazza, and we have a guided tour there, usually by the same girl who I think will appear in one of these shots. Yeah, that's her with the suede jacket. A lovely, lovely girl with the most piercing voice, but bristling with knowledge and enthusiasm. A really, really good guide. And she only guides private groups. She doesn't do cruise ships or anything like that. Only private groups. So from there, we'll walk through to the Roman theatre. It is not a gladiatorial thing. It is theatre, only theatre. Never was a gladiator scene. So this is it. Anyone of any fame at all has performed there, and invariably someone will be performing during the time we're there, and not on the day. They're nearly always building the stage. It's a fantastic experience. A little bit challenging to walk up through. Now, you don't climb up these. You go through a system here and up onto the top. Once you get up the top, hopefully I've got a shot. This is where we come up to, and these are the views you're starting to get right through. It's a fantastic experience. And there is a superb cafe at the very, very top. This is down onto the theatre, not my shot, I have to add. This is from Google Earth. Really quite incredible. And directly below it in here, if one had time, and we will have a bit of free time in the afternoon in the village, there's a fabulous park that you can walk down into. Likewise, I will inevitably go for a walk, even on my own, to this one, which you will see here. The stilted buildings that you see here are actually the village road is right at the very top of that. It's incredible. Unless you know how to find this, people miss it all the time. The nice thing is that when we do go there, it's quiet. As you can see, it's botanically quite rich. So we're still on it, still in there. As did say, it's hilly and there's steps and alleyways, and they themselves are intriguing and very photogenic. I think this might be the narrowest street, what's called the narrowest street in the town, the city. And you get lots of, I'll go back one. You get lots of steps like this that are really ornate with flowers and plants. Lots of tiles, lots of interesting relics. This is a lovely, lovely doorway. I can be very boring on doors and gates and bridges, so forgive me. This is actually a shop window. This is all looking into a shop through this window here. And these are also religious iconography. This is just a little cafe, quite normal, stacks of them. You're now about to get the view from the cafe, which is at the top of the theatre. So when you're standing at the theatre, this is the view you have up towards Messina. I now have been going to Sicily for, this might be my 10 or 12 time. And you get to know people and you work with people. But I'm about to show you an image here. This young lady is our guide on occasions in Palermo. And here am I walking through Taormina, and I meet her mum and dad and her family just for a day out. So it's lovely when you start to get to know people like that, and it happens to me in Palermo. I meet people there that we've met before. So hopefully some of those actually create, those of you that have traveled with me will know about Trevor Treats. Trevor Treats happen if we have time and if we can squeeze them in. And if we can, there is an incredible Trevor Treat in Ragusa. Moving on to one of the other gardens. This is quite spectacular. Quite spectacular. Not easy for the coach to get to, but well worth the effort. Anyone that's into sort of tropical palms, this is heaven, heaven. So this is Lady Valeria, and she's the founder of Catania Garden Club. Quite stunning. Very steppy in parts. This is quite an enormous acreage. Very close to Sicilia, close to Sicilia, but a lovely, lovely experience, made even better in that, if I remember correctly, we have afternoon refreshments there. This is again just orchids growing outside, left alone all year. More of the steps. Just incredible. And the acreage of this, the numbers of them, is just mind-blowing. I did say that we will have refreshments. Way out in the garden, there is this garden room. And this is the garden room. So we're inside a building here, and this is a hydroponics filtration system for a fish tank. And it works perfectly. You have to see it to believe it. It looks good in the image, but when you see it in actual fact, it is even better. So the next private garden that we go to is Lady Julia, and she is the Etna Garden Club person. This is the view from her patio. That's the patio that we arrive on. We arrive, and we overlook that. This is she and her son and her daughter and his lordship himself. Lovely, lovely family. Again, this is another garden that we will normally have lunch in, and lunch is a treat, They also make their own wine, so we would use their wine. This is right up beside the house. And then we go down. It's very much on a rock face, and you'll see as some of the other images. Lots of agave. And this is the old quarry. I mentioned it was rock face. So this is the son's daughter, so it's the daughter-in-law, and she is the chef. She's the chef. It's mom and son, and that was when we were having lunch. So the next one is another private one, very much of a titled family. It's now the Prince and Princess Borghese, run by Giramacchio and Virginia. The mum is still there, but she doesn't take anything to do with the garden now. More on that when we're there. So this is as we arrive. Coming in. So this is just literally inside the gate. This is a beautiful old ficus. And then beside that is the private chapel. And that's where Virginia will usually take us for our briefing, our introduction. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful chapel. So I don't propose to go through any of these. I wanted to include it just to let you see the amount of detail that is in this garden. And it is very much available to us to read. There's a really large board that allows you to actually name each and every one. So, pink scarf appears again. This is Virginia. Interesting that we're holding this Garden Club of Palermo. I did a tour some years ago in Rome for a group from the Garden Club of Palermo, which was uncanny. And then just to come this plate, we think her mum-in-law was actually on the tour. But this is inside. They have another little garden room where they have some produce that they will sell and some books, etc. Again, within the garden. You know what it is? Anyone? Any ideas? You will when I tell you. Come on. Caper. Caper. And you find capers just flowering here, there, and everywhere. They'll flower in the crack in the wall and produce capers, no problem. This is the pepper. This is again still in that same garden, as is this. Pink trumpet tree. Most of my images will be taken in sort of March, April. So we're going to be there in September. So it's going to be a very different flower palette. It's going to be very different. This is down around the extremity of the property. Fabulous swimming pool. So we move from there towards Ragusa. And in Ragusa, we visit a herb farm or herb farm. And this is the property of Enrico. This is Enrico. Now, I think we probably have an image of his wife as well. His wife's American, and he's Sicilian. And his wife is the chef. And he will no doubt tell you exactly this in his same words. He says, my wife is the cook. He says, I am the business card, pointing to his tummy. And he's looking quite slim there, but he is infectious. He is theatrical. He is so entertaining. It's just, and we have lunch there. And lunch is quite special. This is out round by the herbs. He has constructed this amphitheater that gives us views down over the coast. This is Enrico here. And again, this is inside the polytunnels. So we now get an image of his dear wife. She's from Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. So one of the first times I was there, they had 3 sauces. These 3 sauces. I tried this one. It was okay. I tried this one. This was okay. When I tried this one, I didn't speak for 10 minutes. He said, Trevor, it says very spicy. It really was really hot. Anyway, apart from the gardening and some of the architecture that we will see and some of the history, this is in, you may not get Inspector Montalbano, but in Europe, people sort of go a little bit doolally when you talk about Inspector Montalbano. It's a TV series, and it was filmed in Modica. So we will have a very short walk in Modica just to have a look at some of the beautiful buildings. Again, Modica. And we go to Modica because we go to another private garden right on the edge of the town. And this is it coming up. So that's the gates. Once you come through the gates, we're up this little avenue and round we go here. Very special, very private. And again, we have the benefit, not of lunch, but if all goes according to plan, afternoon tea. And it is proper afternoon tea. I'll say no more. So from there, we then have to find somewhere to live. And we go to Hotel Poggio di Sol. And I'm going to show you a couple of images of Sol. So you've been up in Taormina, up here. And we've come to Etna. And with the other 2 or 3 gardens we were looking at were in and around there. And now we end up in Ragusa. Okay. This is our hotel. Very modern. Very much in the country. With fantastic views. Very still, usually very still. And they've got their own garden that has been developing in the years that I've been going. And I can tell you the growth rate is awesome. Absolutely mind-blowing. This has all been built in my time of going to the hotel. Very modern, but very friendly, very personable staff. In September, you will be able to swim in the swimming pool, which is right beside that. In March and April, it's not just as hot, but I have been in it, and it's not bad. But this is the Hotel de Sol. It is a spa hotel, so there will be opportunities if one wants to indulge in spa. There's a gym down in this little corner if one wanted to do that. Good restaurant and good space outside for walking around. So the whole purpose of being in the direction of Ragusa is to experience the hilltop town of Ragusa. And it's Ragusa Ilba, Ilba being top. There is a Ragusa low, and then there's the upper one as well. This is where we will get up into. We actually would walk around this church here. So this is the main drag, and this is the cathedral that we would obviously want to visit. It's a free time visit in Ragusa. I will get you up into the village, and there is a lovely park with views that I will conduct a wee tour around, and then you'll have some free time for ice cream, coffee, cathedrals, whatever. Photographically, I find it fascinating. Just to photograph the roofs and the domes, the cupolas, etc. It's just fun. So when we leave Ragusa and the hotel, we're then heading towards Palermo, and we're heading to the Valley of the Temples. And this is the Argenteo, and the valley is over to the right. The temples are over to the right, which you're about to see now. Not my, no, it is my image, but it's a very pulled in image from the coach, actually. They get better. So this is up in the village, quite a long walk. So we would be dropped at one point, and we walk through the temples, and then the coach usually picks us up at a separate point. A couple of images, again, historically fascinating and photographically stimulating as well. If there's time, there is an archaeological museum, which I have visited, quite fun. So, one of the other things that Italy is well known for, and in many ways, particularly Sicily, is their civil engineering. Their roads, bridges, and tunnels are absolutely stunning. Now you can see the hilltop town just here, and this is us about to disappear into a tunnel and probably come out just at the foot of the hilltop. I just find the whole study of the road structure fascinating. And one is tempted to ask, why were the roads so sophisticated then? And the reason is money. Construction of roads was a very big earner, and certain factions of the community awarded contracts to their friends, etc., etc. So in other words, a lot of the roads have been constructed using mafia-type money. This is an example. This is a very old road, and this is stilted. Do you see the stilts? This must be about 5 miles long, right through the mountains. It is just fascinating. And the tunnels, as I say, are mind-blowing. Look at this. I have a couple of shots of this. Just watch what's happening. So you've got a 2-lane, well, 2-road highway, and this is where we're going in. I think next shot shows. It is quite a feat of engineering. And to me, beautiful. I just love the curves, the whole engineering of it is gorgeous. There you are again. One more, I think. No, one more after that. So all of that is to get us to Palermo. So we get to Palermo, and I'll just show you very quickly our hotel. We're right in the center, of Palermo. We've come from Ragusa to Argenteo, and then in through the mountains to Palermo. Okay. This is our hotel, right in the center of Palermo. And one day we will have a walking tour of Palermo. And that is, we usually go somewhere in the morning and then hit the center of town lunchtime, and then have a walk, guided walk, very much a guided walk with whispers, ear whispers. And you are free to stay on that walk as long as you want, or if you want, you can walk back to the hotel, you can go shopping, you can do whatever. But you will miss out on various bits and pieces. But physically, if someone gets tired, then there's no problem. You're within walking distance of the hotel. Another shot of the hotel. And then I'll just give you a few of the various bits and pieces throughout the city. And again, this is all walking distance within the center. From here to the cathedral, 10 minutes walk. So this is the Palermo Cathedral, and we will in a moment or two go to Monreale. This is right in the center. Again, same one. This is one of the many gates within the city. And we walk actually through this one. We come right through that to get to the palace and to the cathedral. The next shot, it's a twin photo, so it's not, if you look at that in two halves, it's all the one building. This is the Theatre Massimo. I've actually been to a concert in the theatre. We would be most fortunate if we had time to do it, but you can visit it as a tour, which in itself is quite fascinating. So I mentioned the archaeology of the temples and the architecture, as you can see now. Just look at this for a contrast in architecture. Brutal or what? This is typical of Mussolini, the typical architecture of the period, but in its way, quite pretty. So this is the main post office, which unfortunately you cannot tour. Michael Portillo did it. Unfortunately, Michael Portillo is one of our ex-politicians who does great train journeys. He managed to get in. I have tried. You can get in to post a letter, but not to visit the various parts of it. Now, in many ways, the next one is an absolute highlight. So this is the Royal Palace and the Palatine Chapel. So first of all, a couple of images of the chapel. Again, I've limited myself because I really just want them to be teasers for you. This is, you could do a whole lecture on this one chapel. So here we go. These are all individual mosaic, tiny, tiny mosaic. This is up into the ceiling. If you can trust me, you see this pattern that's here. For want of a better description, they're a little bit like cow udders. And they're wooden, and it's carved. It's a wooden carved ceiling. And each of the sort of drop down parts, forgive the expression, are 1 meter long. So it's an incredible piece of engineering and carpentry. Again, everything up in here is individual mosaic. Now, we might see a little bit more when we get to Monreale, the images of Monreale, but part of the thinking is the patterns get more fine and more intriguing the higher you go. The thinking being, the closer you are to God, the finer it has to be. That's the theory. We will have a city guide that will talk us through this one and the other cathedral in great detail. This is moving. Within the Palatine Chapel, you then have the Royal Palace, all within the same complex. And I purposely have only left one image of the palace in because it's just too beautiful. You'll have to trust me. This is just one fireplace within one room. That is just how beautiful the whole place is. Moving outside and round to another part of the city. This is down near what's called the Four Corners, which again is 5-10 minutes from our hotel. It's all part of the walking tour. It's interesting. I'll tell you better at the time when we're there, but this fountain came from another city in Rome. Sorry, another city in Italy. And it was planted here. And at the time, there was absolute revolt because the men and the women were naked. So for a long time, people did not access this square. The fountain itself is quite interesting, but this church chapel behind is fascinating. I have been up in, if you follow my mouse, you can see 2 people there. You can actually get right up into this dome and you walk through the roof beams, etc., if that is your want. So, this is literally Liberty. 2 images again, just on the one slide. I just loved the sky. This is literally a roundabout. The coach goes round this. That was taken from the coach window. One of the main things we'll do in Palermo is the Otto Botanica. One of the oldest botanic gardens in Europe. Stunning. A great collection of very, very interesting and old specimens, some of which I'll show you. So, this is their theatre, their plant theatre. I'm not sure if I do a close-up, but if you look at my mouse, just there and here, you can see that each pot actually has a logo of the garden, and the logo is a sphinx, and all will be revealed why it's a sphinx when we get to the Botanic Gardens. Again, just on the pot theatre, there are cacti, another one. So there's so many aspects. So this is the kapok tree. There's a lot of glass houses to visit within it as well. This is again still within the Botanic Garden. It is right beside what we call Villa Giulia. Villa Giulia is literally adjacent to it. We walk from one to the other, but they're not interconnected. We have to exit and go back in the other one. Villa Giulia is very much a public park, does not have a plant collection as such, but has a collection of buildings which are parkland setting. Still worth a visit. Where am I now? Another one of that. I often marvel at the size of these. Look at these pillars and the urns. This is one of the most fantastic ficuses you'll ever see. And even though I'm exposing it to you now, when you see it, you'll still go, wow. Because what we're seeing that way is also going that way as well. It is ginormous. You may know, you probably know, that all of these verticals are aerial roots, which come down and down and down and down, and then connect into the ground and actually form another tree. So initially they're roots, but then they become a tree. Monreale is probably, in terms of the buildings that we will be inside, the real creme de la creme. It is absolutely stunning. Monreale Cathedral. And the village of Monreale in itself is quite fascinating. This is so enormous. It's just, we'd be very, very lucky. I was there once when the organ played, and it was just absolutely mind-blowing. We also then visit part of that. In fact, what we're seeing there, that is the inside. That I'll go back one. So what we're looking at here, that is then within that building there. But this is the cloisters on the outside, which from an architecture point of view and a horticultural point of view are absolutely brilliant, brilliant. But just wait till you see these pillars. I think I'm right in saying that no one pillar is the same as the other. They all have a different story. And they've all just, in the years that I've been going, I've been in the state of restoration, and they just finished last year. They finished the last one of them. Again, looking down on the cloister. And close up of one of the pillars. And everyone tells a story. So that's us finishing off in Palermo and in Sicily. So do a quick preview of Rome. So our hotel in Rome will be the Rome Times Hotel. I measured it just the other day. I think it's 9 minutes from the Trevi Fountain. You know, so once we get to our hotel at night, then you're immersed in the whole atmosphere of the center of Rome. Nice hotel. And a little bit of an expose of breakfast. So I think I show you, yeah, there were, it's 12 minutes. From the hotel to the Trevi Fountain is 12 minutes. So you can't go to Rome without visiting at least St. Peter's Square. The next shot is mine. This is from an airplane flying in last year, and I just managed to get it out the window of the plane. So this is the Basilica. That is St. Peter's Square there, and this is the Vatican Gardens, which you can now visit. We don't visit it on this tour. It would take quite a long time, but it's only with this new Pope that you can visit. So do not be confused. This is again 2 images, me being a little bit arty and playing with my zebra crossings. We will do a walking tour of the St. Peter's Square, but there probably will not be time to enter. In the afternoon, the queues to go in will be an hour, maybe more. I was in this year at 3 minutes past 7 in the morning, and I was about the 6th person in. So if you really, 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 really want to, get yourself there at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I think another close-up of the, yes, this is me inside. Me inside. So part of the whole purpose of being in the direction of Roma is to get to this garden. one of the most significant gardens, Villa d'Este. Still photographs do not do it justice, but I'll try. I'll go back one. It is very steppy, so be prepared. It can be a little bit steppy. We come from street level at this, down and then down again, and then you've got to come back up. So it's a little bit steppy, but well worth it. This is the rewards. These foamy shots, if you're not familiar, that's me shooting with a time lapse. So you get this foamy look. That's one with time lapse on the left, and the other one's just ordinary. So not only is it a garden tour and a botanical tour, etc., but you get a photographic lesson as well, if you want. And all of these shots are shot with an iPhone. All shot with an iPhone. The iPhone is sitting beside me. So this, I mentioned that with the new Pope, we can visit the Vatican Garden, but we can also visit Villa Gandolfo, which is the Pope's summer palace. I'm told that this Pope does not use this at all. But anyway, it is still very much protected and looked after. You cannot visit it as general public. You must go in a group and a guided group. I'm not saying it'll happen every time, but one of the times I was there, two ladies at the beginning of the tour said, "We can go no further, Trevor. We will wait. We'll stay here." And one of the guards said, "Leave them. I will look after." 10 minutes later, we're out in the garden and the two ladies are on the back of the Pope Mobile. The Pope Mobile being ferried around. It's a very interesting garden. I don't think I've ever been in a garden that has been so perfect. It's just perfection. Now, there is a worry in that a lot of this is buxus, you know, and in Europe we certainly have a problem with buxus blight and moth. And if this gets attacked, then it's in big trouble. Another couple of shots of Gandolfo. As I say, perfection. I did warn you that I love steps. Look at these. And I have a theory that steps are not for changing level. They're for looking at. Steps are beautiful. Look at that. So to change level is a secondary thing. To look at them is even better. Looking down from the balcony. So on a separate day, we go south. I think it's south of Rome, to visit one garden. And people say to me, Trevor, in all the travels, which is the best? And I never am prepared to say, but I will say whether one is in the top 10 or not. The next one is certainly in the top 10. This is Ninfa, and it's in the top 10 for a variety of reasons. I often say how you enjoy a garden depends not just on the garden, the style of garden, the content, but either the gardener or the owner and your relationship with them has an incredible influence on it. And the first time I was in this garden, it was with, for want of a better term, let's call him the owner and his wife, because it's not the owner. He's the head of the trust. But he was just the most fantastic gentleman. And it's clouded my vision ever since. But the other thing about it is, it's the only garden in the world that I know uses buildings in the same way that a florist will use a vase or vase. So they're using the building to display plants in the same way that a florist would put flowers into a vase. And that's literally what they're doing the whole way through this. And the dichotomy is which one do you control? Do you control the building or do you control the plant? And in many cases, it has to be the plant because the building has to be preserved. But the whole way through it, it is just a photographer's dream, quite botanically rich. as in photographer's dream, 2 different images here, just catching the reflection in this pond. Hopefully I have another image of the pond. The river, it's actually a river that goes through. I don't have the image, but the river that goes through it was, it wasn't, I've forgotten what the disease was that was in the village. Why it is a deserted village is that it had cholera or something or other. And the only way that they could supply the village was by boat. So they could bring the boats to the village and then leave the food and things. So the river was the lifeline to the whole thing. This lovely anadatum fern just growing in the rocks. Purposely haven't given you too much of a content of that garden, but unique. And we may be the only people there. You don't normally get access. For some reason or other, Brightwater always gets access. So enjoy it. So I think that brings us to the end, ish. So a summary of where we've been. So we start in Taormina and we look at Etna and then down to Lentini. Lentini is where there are 2 private gardens that we visit, and then down to Ragusa, and then to Argenteo, and then Palermo. Now, the next slide is going to ring Trapani, but it's not. That's actually the military airfield. It's not the actual airfield. The airfield is here somewhere. Oh, there it is. There it is there. Forgive me. Well done, Jenny, for pointing it out. So that is wrong. It is that airfield we're using there. So that is the summary of the tour, which I hope will enthuse you. But just for those of you that have been with me in the past, I'm going to have a quick review of some of the previous tours. Quite fun. I'll make it quick, snappy, and it might actually encourage you to have a look at these either with us, Brightwater, on your own, or maybe another tour. We did go to Tresco when we were in Cornwall, and this is the team flying out to Tresco. We went into this little airport in the morning. We got a safety briefing, and then we boarded our flight, flew into St. Mary's, and then we boarded a taxi to the boat, and then the boat out to the garden. That is the only shot of Tresco that I've included, because you could spend all day. If you haven't been to Tresco, it's another one that will always be in the top 10 in the world, in my book. It is absolutely amazing. So this is our team flying back in the evening. It wasn't a private plane, but we were the only ones on it. So the pilot very kindly gave us a nice photograph. So we went to the Menac Theatre. This is the view from the Menac Theatre. This is the team. Some of you, I hope, I know Jim's here. Jim Bob. There we go. And fish and chips, always at hand. Another one of the Cornwall Gardens underneath the Gunnery. This is coming up into Devon, North Devon, I think. I put the smiley face in this one because anyone that's been on this tour will know that this was quite a fun garden to visit. This is the lady of the house. She was hilarious. And she had a very, I'm fascinated by outdoor art. In fact, I do a lecture, art and gardens, art and architecture and gardens of the world. And really, some of these pieces should be in it. She has the most interesting collection of art. That one's modest. Now, don't dwell too long in the next one. And then we walk from that through the woodlands. There are not 3 of these. This is me doing a triplicate. And then, of course, we had to have a little presentation at the end of this one. And there's next one is in Ireland, not so very long ago. Well, actually, two different times here. That's quite a long time ago. That must be 98, Jim Bob. That's the one. That's at Bantry. And that's just last year. That's last year. Jimmy Blake's garden, Jimmy Blake. And then we're now up in Donegal. This is Oakfield Park. A rather nice image here for pet lovers and for those that like a cocktail. For those that don't know the cocktail, it's Baileys and Bush. Baileys as in Baileys cream and Bushmills as in whiskey. Great combination. Malahide Castle. Can you see yourself? There's Thelma. I see you there in your yellow. Powers Court. This one is down when we took the ferry out to Garnish Island. That's a few years ago. Again, a few years ago. I put this one in for a memory for us all. If you look dead center. Nice memory. This is Bantry House again. And this is again just this year. Wilkinson, the Wilkinson family. And it was their dog, the nice cuddly dog, was at this garden as well. So this is a few years ago again. I put this in for a reason. And the next one. This is Helen Dillon's garden. And those of you that were there would know that this was Helen's second garden. She moved from a place called Ranelagh. And Helen's since lost her husband, and Helen's now not well either. So the garden is no longer visitable. Again, I left it in for a memory for who's behind Helen. Moving north, this is our Parliament buildings in Belfast, which was empty then and still is empty now, unfortunately. Titanic visitor experience in Belfast. Hillsborough. One or two there, Marcia. The ladyships. And what have I got coming next? This is us away up north. Brook Hall. This is litter, flower litter from rhododendron. Liam Green's garden in Derry, Londonderry. And the St. Columns Cathedral, where I will be for a choral recital on the 19th, next week, within here. This is us at the Giant's Causeway, one or two people attending today. Those were the brave folk that went to the very top. And I think obviously my knee was sore there. If you look at my grimace, I think my knee was kind of sore. This is Morris Parkinson's garden near Ballyclare, only a short distance from me. There's Nora making sure we could see her. Well done, Nora. This is Rosemount, Montgomery garden. And you can't come to Northern Ireland without tasting a whiskey or two. I think because we're coming to that point, we must be getting near the, yes, we are near the end. So that literally is it all. I do nothing but sit back now. I think.
Trevor, thank you very much. I am ready to pack my bags. It looks fantastic.
1 hour.
Okay, wonderful. We have a few questions for you, Trevor. If you have, okay, so we'll get started.
Share. Okay.
So the first question is actually about steps and how difficult they are and whether or not they have handrails.
Steps are steps. It's just the amount of them is often the problem. Will they have handrails? I would work on the basis that they won't. If you have a walking aid of any sort, stick or whatever, bring it. Will they have handrails? Probably not. What I will say is that one of the last people who did Sicily with me were a husband and wife. who were both amputees. And they managed all the steps. They missed nothing. They missed, so walking with a prosthetic.
And also the pace, you're not rushing us during this. We can walk at our own pace on these steps.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no rushing.
Provided you keep up.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can always see your pink scarf. Then we have a question about the weather. What time of year were these pictures taken, and what can we expect in terms of the weather in September?
I would say, well, all my pictures are taken not in September. I mentioned that as we're going through. And we will be warmer in September than I would be in April and May. It'll be warmer in September. Temperature-wise,
it's probably about 25 during the day in September, I would say. So what's that at about 75, 77 Fahrenheit for you?
We'll trust you on that.
It'll be t-shirt.
Yes.
It'll be t-shirt. And still warm at night.
Unless when we go to Etna, when we have to use our Macintoshes. And
yeah.
So
at least have them with you.
Okay. A question about a specific question about the itinerary, asking this would be the third full day in Taormina. We visit 2 private gardens that day, and is that enough to fill a day for us? I think that was the Lady Valeria garden. Was one of the private gardens there. Trevor, do you recall?
Third day.
The third full day in Taormina. 9 to 12. It would be the Thursday.
I think it's probably the 2. This Lady Julia, and yes, it's enough. Yes, it's enough.
Okay.
And one of them is they're close to Modica, and we will stop briefly in Modica just to have a walk through the town for the architecture. It'll be full. And then we've got to, is that the day that we then go to Ragusa?
I think that's the next day, because we have that night of the 12th in Taormina also. Okay. That's our last night there. Then we have a question, really a very personal question for you, about what do you especially find unique and appealing about Sicily in September, Trevor?
September I'm not familiar with. I think I've been once in September privately, but never with a group. But I'll answer it generally. It's botanically very varied, very, very varied. And I think I was touching on it because I know it so well, and I know the gardens well, and many of the people, and the charm and connection with those people, I think is probably what makes it very special. Like, I would never get tired of going to Sicily. Never.
What month do you more typically go if not September?
What are we, Jenny? April, May? March, April?
It's March and April. Yeah.
March, April.
Jenny, is the weather about equivalent between the two? You said it's going to be a little warmer in September than it would have been in March and April.
Yeah.
It's definitely warmer in September, yes.
Yeah. Trevor, what was the name of your favorite garden in Cornwall?
Whoa.
Was it Tresco that she was talking about?
Oh, well, undoubtedly, it's not Cornwall as such, it's Channel, but if you include Tresco, without doubt. Yeah. There was one other that we visited that I'd never been to before, which is a sculpture park. Do you remember that one?
Oh, Trevethan.
Yeah. And coincidentally, it's owned by a Northern Irishman who's a medical surgeon, and he has the garden as a hobby. Yeah, I loved it. But no,
yeah, they were quite famous for their succulents, weren't they?
Which one?
The sculpture garden, didn't they have a yes, a succulent business? We have a question about the logistics. Someone's asking, they think their plane will not be getting in until 5:30 p.m. I guess that's the plane in Catania, and asking if we'll be met at the airport. So, Trevor, do you want to take that?
Jenny?
Yeah, we were planning on doing one transfer. We were going to suggest that everybody's there for 4 o'clock. I think most people will probably connect via Rome, and there's quite a few connections that day. Obviously, if anybody is arriving out with that time or later, we could certainly help arrange transfers as required if they just let us know, and we can give them details.
Yeah.
It's about an hour from
coming in.
It's about an hour from the airport, isn't it, Jenny?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. What we did in other trips is that we see what flights people book, and we try to give some guidance as to when we'd like to meet, and then we'll see what works best for the majority of people as far as the transport goes. Yeah, because I think we really have to see what kind of flights people and what their travel plans are. Some people will probably be coming before the trip actually begins. Yeah. And then I have, if you arrive in Catania a day or two earlier, will Brightwater help with the hotel reservation? So
yes, we can certainly help with reservations in Catania. We've got a couple of hotels that we're just getting the final prices for, and then we can send it around everyone. But yes, by all means, we can assist with that.
Okay, great. And then we have a question about what city do you fly into from Philadelphia and how many connections?
There is direct flights from Philadelphia to Rome. And then from Rome, you would have one flight down to Catania. I think I looked for the day before the flight coming in from Philly that day. It leaves the night before. So it leaves on the 8th at 18:40 and arrives on the 9th at 09:05 in the morning into Rome. And then there's various connections. You would probably get one about lunchtime down that would maybe get you there for about 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Okay. I think that takes care of all of our questions.
One idea might be, Dawn, that if someone wanted to come into Catania a day early, Catania itself is fascinating. And it may make sense to have an overnight in Catania and then pick us up at the airport. Rather than come in a day early and go to Naxos. Catania is fascinating.
I know a couple of us are hoping to come into Catania maybe as early as Friday. So we'll see if there's interest there because of what you told us about, how much there is to see there, that we won't really we'll be passing through Catania otherwise.
Well, otherwise you hardly see it.
Yeah. So, okay. Anybody else have any more questions? Okay. I'll just let everyone know that if you're interested in joining us on the trip, the registration form is now available to be downloaded from the event website. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Jill and I would be your contacts at Party Plant. And we hope to see you in Sicily. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Jenny.
Okay.
I know it's way past your bedtime, folks. Take care.
It's now 1:45 in the morning.
Okay, you'll sleep well.
Lovely to see so many of you, and I look forward to seeing you sometime somewhere.
Okay, take care.
And
God bless everyone.
Bye all.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's go on now.
Yeah. Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you. We'll see you in Sicily.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Thank you. Happy New Year.
You're looking after that girl, are you?
Yeah, of course, every day.
Happy to see you both.
Okay. You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Marcia, see you.
I guess